So welcome everyone. I just got the fawn sign from Patty. Welcome everyone to What the Bleep is an X-Men. Super excited for this conversation. The first thing is X-Men. As an X-Men, if you could just not be super serious about yourself, that's probably one of the things that's going to get you have so much more ease in your life. Obviously, I try not to take myself too seriously, which is actually a very new thing in my life since knowing these access tools, and especially the Access Xmen. So if you are joining us and you know a little bit about Access, but you're just interested in getting more information about the specialty that we call Access Xmen, or if you've never actually heard of Access or Xmen, awesome. We're so glad you're here. I will give you some different places that you can go and find more information at the end of the call. So what I really wanted to do is just talk to you all about what this crazy little specialty that Access offers that we call Xmen. And really what Xmen is a body of work that allows you to start to kind of uncover and be aware of those areas where you probably have kept things very secret, private, and off to the side because somewhere along the line you were either told they were wrong or you decided they were wrong, or you were possibly labeled as a wrongness. So there are some things that we talk about a lot that are labels that a lot of people are familiar with, like autism, ADD, ADHD, OCD, dyslexia. Those are kind of some of the main labels, although probably in the last 10 years, in a lot of places of the world, the labels have not gotten less. People just have decided that if they label things more specifically, that will actually create some sort of new clarity and change with what a lot of people on this planet have decided are disabilities. So one of the things that we talk a lot about in X-Men is that what if everything that you have decided or been told about you is a disability is actually an ability that either you have not been given the tools to use as such, so you've created it as a disability, or you just never even considered the possibility that the thing that you've been struggling with your whole life is actually something that's great about you. And it's one of the things that I love so much about this work. And it's given me personally a ton of freedom. I found Access, I think it's probably like 8 years ago now. I was in a really interesting place in my life. I had one of those people that had tried many different things. And, you know, some things worked kind of, and most things didn't work for very long. And then I found Access, and it was this crazy thing that I had no idea what it was. I saw a tiny little YouTube video of Dr. Dane here and was like, what the heck is this? And all of my spidey senses, what I now know are my X-Men abilities, was like, go do that. And so I did. I just went and I got my bars run, which is a body process that Access facilitators offer around the world. You can either receive bars as a body process, as body work, or you can actually learn how to gift bars and facilitate the classes. It's an amazing thing. And it's one of the first things we talk about with X-Men. Because the bars basically allow you to get out of the polarized points of view. So everywhere you've decided something's right, everywhere you've decided something's wrong, whether it's good or bad, bars actually start to kind of dissipate and break up all those solidified ideas that you've had. And so for X-Men, it's the beginning of kind of what's required, because so many of us have lived our lives. Like, I'm in my 40s now, and I have been strange my whole life. I have never fit in. I was never actually labeled with anything, but looking back, I definitely was different. And I got here and not much made sense. And I looked around looking for people that had a similar way that I knew I was, and I didn't find it anywhere. And so my life became a series of, how do I fit in? How do I fit in? Who should I be friends with? What should I be or do? Like, how do I talk? What's all the right and what's all the wrong things to avoid? And what's all the right things to choose? And most people who are X-Men and may not know it, this has been a lot of their story. And so when I found Access, I started, with the bars, as I said, and I get my bars run a lot. And a couple years into the specialty, I started hearing stuff about this X-Men thing, like blah, 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 maybe you're an X-Men, or blah, blah, blah. Maybe, have you ever considered you're autistic? And I'm like, artistic? Like, no. And they're like, no, autistic. And I'm like, no, because what this reality tells you autism is, and what it actually can be, because there's a huge range of what that looks like for people. And again, so many of us have learned we're brilliant, most X-Men are, and we have learned how to fit in. So we take that thing that makes us an X-Men that, secretly is an ability, but we decided it's a disability. And so then we figure out how to make ourselves work here. And so when I first started learning this work and getting more information around X-Men, I didn't consider myself one. I didn't think any of this applied to me at all. So for those of you that have been around Access for a while and are experiencing the same thing, what I will say to you is, if this Zoom popped for you, and if you're sitting here now, 8 minutes in, geez, it feels like it's been 500 years, but 8 minutes in, you might be an X-Men. I'm just going to say it. You don't have to be. You could choose it, or acknowledge it is what I'll say, as so many of us have the dawning moment of oh crap, I think this stuff might apply to me. So if that's you, the next question for me was okay, well, now what? And if you've been to some of the core Access classes, this body of work does come up in classes. You may have heard Gary or Dane talk to people about where they have capacities that they're kind of using against them, or where, they even ask people, are you autistic? Or I've been asked in class, are you dyslexic? Which, by the way, I actually am. Had no idea that's what it was, because it didn't show up for me like this reality's version of dyslexia, which is basically you jumble up the words. What I realized for myself is that I actually had an energetic dyslexia. So, one of the things that we know about X-Men is that they're incredibly aware, really aware. Their bodies are really aware. So people who have a lot of these labels, or maybe not labeled, the experience they will have is that they may have lots of different body sensations, that they've decided are anxiety or depression, or weird physical things that show up in their bodies, tics or sensations, or, anything like that. Or, a way that you learn is very different, or anything like that. When those things are showing up, it is a reflection of mainly how aware you are. And it's really what you as a person have done, and the abilities that you have to translate that energy, to be aware of the energy, to how the energy speaks to you. And so one of the things that we talk a lot about in the X-Men classes is how to actually develop your ability to be that aware of all the things, all the people, all the animals, all the planets, all the emotions, all of it, and still have a sense of you, and still have an ability to not just be ease with all of that, but use it to your advantage. So many of the things that I have chosen, and what has shown up for me in my life since I've used the tools of Access Xmen is so not what I was expecting to show up. There's things that I'm actually good at that I would have never considered I was good at because I was misidentifying it as something else. There's things I'm aware of that, like, so much of what I do and be now, I literally had defined it as anxiety before I had these tools. So anytime like my awareness would show up, or a capacity that I had to be able to be aware of like full pictures of things, that information would come to me and I wouldn't know what to do with it. And it would literally translate into heart palpitations, not being able to breathe, feeling dizzy, feeling disoriented. And when I started using the tools that you learn in Xmen, I actually realized that's information that I'm becoming aware of and that I'm receiving. And then now that I've acknowledged that it's a capacity, it's an ability, not a disability, and it's information, what I have been able to use that for and create with it, and the systems that I've been able to create with for myself, for different projects I'm on, it's amazing. So this body of work doesn't just give you more freedom personally, more freedom and I'll say ease with your body, but it also allows you to be more successful, to choose to be successful instead of kind of be awkward and weird, because most of us Xmen know nothing about walking into a room full of people and going, oh my God, I'm so uncomfortable right now. What is wrong with me? Which is normally what Xmen will say. What is wrong with me? What's going on? What's wrong with my body? What's happening? And it's the gift of this body of work that you actually get out of what is wrong with me? Why am I reacting this way? My whole life, I was like, you're so sensitive. You're so sensitive. If you didn't react the way you do, people wouldn't do that to you. It was something I got all the time. And that doesn't actually give you choice. And it doesn't actually empower you to have the awareness that that is not a wrongness. It's actually a gift. And it's the gift that you probably came here to be, that you haven't actually been able to tap into. So for me, being able to facilitate these classes and being able to gift people these tools, it's one of the coolest things that I can choose, because I know the freedom that I've gotten for myself from this body of work. And I know the amazing people out there on this planet that, if they just had a little bit more information, could actually start to choose such a greater existence for themselves. And that's going to change the planet. Like, the other thing that Xmen are comes with that incredible awareness that we all have, is that we are aware what we're doing here doesn't actually work. Like, it doesn't take much, but to look around and go, wow, okay, what else is possible? What else could we be choosing here? And the ability, like the idea that you could take something that you've been literally disabling yourself with your whole life, and very pragmatically and oftentimes easily, I know it's hard to believe, you could change that into something that you show up as an ability that changes things for you, for people, for the planet. And it's like not a small thing. The thing about Xmen is that we are the innovators on the planet. Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and he's the first person who started to become aware of these different tools with Xmen and this body of work and develop it along with Dr. Dane Hare. He's always said Xmen are the evolution of the species, that they're a mutation to a higher, not in a sense of better, but a different way of being here. Most people can agree that something different is required. So this body of work is one of those things that I'm very passionate about. And I'm so grateful you're all here. Patty just raised her hand, like physically. Yay. Okay, good. Question.
Because we have a question in the chat. Ashley would like for you to talk a bit about Xmen capacities in horses. And I would like if you can expand upon maybe and I know you talked about dyslexia and all of that, but, and then of course you like hit my personal button of reacting. And what came up for me was like, how are these particular tools different? How do you apply them different to Xmen? Like, could you get this like at a choice of possibilities class or at a foundation class? Like, what makes this particular body of work and the application of it different? So I'm going to mute myself so you can. And Miruna says, are the Xmen tools different? Yes, that. Okay.
She took it out of your head. She might be an Xmen. You know, it's like the thing about the Xmen body of work is that you do hear about it. You know, if you've taken foundation, if you've done bars, if you've done, you know, COP, if you've done any of the access classes, you will hear about these like ideas. The Xmen body of work, it takes those ideas, it extrapolates on it, so you get a ton more information. You are able to actually explore exactly how you are an Xmen, and you get to use them pragmatically. You actually get to apply them. So a lot of the specialties in access, because you know, I'm guilty of it, and some of us may or may not be, but you go to a class, you're like, oh my God, it's so life-changing, blah, blah, and then you go home and you're like, it stays a class. It stays something kind of cerebral. It's a nice idea. When you come to an Xmen workshop, when you do the Xmen classes, you're actually, it is more pragmatic. And what I have learned for myself is that all of a sudden I was applying the tools, and I was more aware about how I specifically be in the world and how I am an Xmen. Another reason why we use Xmen as kind of a playful way of describing this particular, you know, group of people is because there's no two Xmen that are the same. None. Like, we are all very, very different. And we have all, you know, already developed and evolved particular ways of being. And this isn't like a whole bag of tools and tricks and ideas and processes and so much, so that you actually start to go, okay, what makes me different? Like, who am I? Who would I like to be? What things would I like to develop? And it's like they're an exploration of you to such a cool degree. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's been my experience with the Xmen classes. Xmen capacity and horses. So one of the things that Gary Douglas at one point said to me before I realized this was a lot of how I be on the planet was I don't even remember the question I was asking him. I think it was at a body class. Because for me, a lot of what I'm aware of shows up sensorially in my body. And so body stuff has always been a focus of mine. And he said to me, he's like, you know, is it all real to you that you don't like people? And at the time, I was literally in customer service. I was like, no, what are you talking about? I love people. Like, I love them, you know? And, you know, he hit that one moment because I was like, oh, crap. Like, and I do find it really difficult, or I have found it, and I do still, to be quite honest. I use the tools every day to be in physical proximity to other people. Like, and he's like, you like to be around animals way more than you like to be around people. And I was just like, oh God, that is so true. And I had basically created my life as such. Like, if anyone knows me, I have a whole pack of dogs that are my, you know, main group that I hang out with most of the time. And so with horses, I mean, with animals in general, Xmen have a completely different, like, animals are willing to be a space that for X-Men allows them to be space. Because when you're an X-Men and you're that aware of everyone's thoughts, feelings, and emotions, it's sometimes really difficult for you to be space, for you to have like any sort of quiet in your head, any sort of just that sense of like, and animals are willing to be that. They don't hang on to stuff. They don't project shit into the future of like blah, blah, blah. They're not worrying about past stuff. They're in the moment and they're present. And horses are one of the most like dynamic animals that have the ability to do that for you. So they are brilliant with being able to show you, to gift you, and to contribute with you that space. And it's a similar thing that we get from energy, from like, you know, being out in the forest or, you know, being out places where there's not a lot of people. So what if it wasn't wrong that you don't like people? But if you could admit it, I seriously, just so you guys all know, like when he said that to me, I like went and cried for like an hour and a half because I had so convinced myself, no, I love people. It just was not true. So Patty's raising her hand again.
So that's so awesome. I say that a lot, actually, how much I don't like people, but I love people, but I don't like them. So something popped while you were talking. And for example, for me, and my question to you is like, what is a tool that is applied, or I don't know if applied is the right word, but what's a tool that's a little bit different for an X-Men? And I'll give you an example. Like for me, I can't use who does this belong to? Mostly because I get really OCD about finding out who does it belong to. So for me, like I have to use this mine. That makes it really easy. Light, heavy, done. So I'm wondering if there's any others that you know that as an X-Men, it's like maybe a little bit of a tweak. And then Ashley says that her life makes way more sense now, literally spent as much time with her horse as possible in high school and was totally made wrong for that. So, and then Jacqueline can also relate to everything that you're saying. So I'll mute myself, and I'm just one tool that's like a little bit different for X-Men than for like, you know, everyone else.
Okay. It's a great question because that, you know, when you do start, you know, when I found X-Men, I had been quote unquote, you know, doing Access for 3 or 4 years. So I had gone to a lot of classes. So one of the things, and Patty, you brought it up, is so X-Men generally have an ability to be aware of people, places, and things in about an 8,000 mile radius. So if just where you're sitting right now, you just actually acknowledged how many people, places, and things are within 8,000 miles of you, around, above, and below, that's a lot of information. So using the tool, who does this belong to, can also like basically create this tidal wave of like, blah. And we all know, if you've used this tool before, you don't actually have to know who it belongs to. You don't even have to know, like, you know, blah, 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 that you return it to sender. And for X-Men, it can be even disorienting because it's like you think the tool is going to create some space and it doesn't. So what you can do and how you can tweak this tool a little bit is, instead of asking who does this belong to, you actually ask, what am I perceiving? And what that does is it actually allows you to start to become aware that it is not you, that you're actually perceiving something. It's not a thought. It's not your feeling. It's not your emotion. You're perceiving it. And if you happen to be somebody who has a lot of body sensation or a lot of weird body that show, you know, if you're somebody who's been diagnosed with weird stuff with your body your whole life, that sometimes is a sign of being an X-Men, where you go to the doctor and they're like, well, this is really weird, but blah, blah, blah. A lot of times that is a capacity that your body has. Because, you know, one of the things we talk about in Access is you, the being, is you, and then your body is its own consciousness, and it's a collaboration and it's a co-creation. So you as an X-Men may actually have built a little X-Men body that is super aware, has massive capacities, has tons of abilities. And so when you say, what am I perceiving? It stops you from automatically assuming at light speed, because X-Men are very fast, that it's yours. I can feel it, it's fine. And this is something I work on every day. And for those of you that actually personally know me, you know this. Like, we all have our things. This for me has been a very interesting one, because, you know, it's like, no, it's like real. Like, I can feel that, you know? And so anytime you say, I feel it, you buy it. You buy it as yours. So using, what am I perceiving? What is this? What am I perceiving? Can sometimes create a completely different result for you, and give you a little bit more clarity. Question?
So, yes, along those lines about bodies, Kimber would like to know if X-Men perceive bodies in a different way than other healers, and do they work with bodies differently?
Sorry, I got a call. Yes and yes. And that actually lends to what I was talking about, with every X-Men is very different. Because oftentimes, like, even that definition of a healer, most people have like a point of view of what that is. Some of us who have had a lot more kind of metaphysical, you know, I was a searcher for years. So like, everybody has a point of view of what a healer is. And the cool part about X-Men, having the body of work, having the tools, when you start to apply them, you actually start to understand what is true for you, and how you are very different, and how your body is very different. Again, no two X-Men are the same, and none of us have created our bodies the same. So that's one of like my favorite things about this, is that it's so cool to see who shows up. Like, it's exciting to me to see all the different kinds of people that show up. And even if you've created total drama and trauma in your life, you're still this amazing creator. And like, with the few more bits of information, like, what else is possible? So I like having all the, you know, spotted, pink spotted and polka dotted animals, and the, you know, all the different kinds show up in my classes. It's like actually the most fun part for me. Like, who's coming? Like, what's going to show up now? So, yes. Question.
So, I'm wondering if you could talk about, we have a question here from Jacqueline, and I'm just going to kind of make it a little bit more general. Can you talk about X-Men and fitting in? Like, yeah. That.
Like, there's the energy of it. Like, good luck. And I'm sure you've done your best job up until this point. And what if you didn't have to fit in? What if literally nothing was relevant to you and it was all about your choice? And one of the things that the tools that you learn in X-Men, you actually have the space to know. Because another thing that happens with X-Men, so most of us have grown up with this incredible level of awareness of everyone around us. And we've mimicked, we've chose to fit in, we've, you know, folded, bent, stapled like ourselves into some version of kind of fitting in while we knew we didn't thing. And one of the things that I realized early on was, man, I don't actually have a good sense of who I am, of what I would like to create, what I desire. And what if you didn't have to fit in? And what if it's a really cool journey to know what's true for you and what's different and what you can be on the planet? That's what I would say to that. we have any other questions? There's a question
We
that's
do. I'm getting the
not in
Russian.
English.
I'm getting the
Wow.
Russian question to Sergey. And in the meantime, can you say a few words about X-Men? This is just a few words: sex and relationship and X-Men.
Oh, good Lord.
A couple sentences on that.
Wow. And okay, cool. Like, I love this question. So yeah, like when proximity to people and your awareness of people is so off the charts, can you even do relationship with other people? And what I would say is, what can you create with yourself as an awareness? Like, it's kind of similar to the last question, actually, where like, what do you know about you? What would you like to choose? The clarity that you would like to have if you're in a relationship with someone. And sex with X-Men can be very odd, because oftentimes you're way more aware of what the other person requires, desires, needs, what their body's needs are, than you're actually of yourself. So what if you could actually choose relationship and sex from a place of like, what would I like and what would my body like, and not always default to what is the louder noise in the room, which is often other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and other people's bodies, desires, and needs. That's my few words. The rest of it, you got to come to class for. That's a big topic.
Yes, come to class. I'm going to say a whole bunch of nothing right now so that Sergey can translate the question in Russian.
Oh,
but Claudia, she responded, "The energy is so amazing. Thank you." And that she's been condemned for all of that. So how does it get better? In the meantime, so the translation for the Russian question from apparently myself, which is like really, I don't know what's going on there, but there you go. My child doesn't speak, he's 2, and that the person is having sensations in their jaw now.
so I would say the other thing that you can actually do as an X-Men, and also it can be really helpful for kids, is you can also ask, what am I perceiving? And then ask, where are you perceiving it from? Because the assumption would be what you're perceiving in your body has something to do with your child, but does it actually? And if you were being aware, if you were having an awareness, I should say, where is it actually coming from? And sometimes you'll actually get a sense of like, it's to the left or to the right, or it's behind me or it's in front of me. And that gives you more information about what you're picking up and what you're perceiving. If you do get that it is about your child, what I would look at is, truth, is it wrong? Is it a wrongness to them that they haven't been talking? And is there any place that you are or they are reacting and resisting to other people's projections, expectations, rejections, separations, and judgments based on the fact that you're 2 years old, you should be communicating now, you should use your words? Because for an X-Men, the primary language is energy. Most X-Men, there's a lot of X-Men who are nonverbal for a really, really long time. Words do not compute, because the level of information that they're getting doesn't make sense that one word could be that thing. So, being in the question about what's right about it, and is this actually a problem, and is this actually something that your child is choosing for a particular reason for themselves? And if you could be aware of either anything that's like being projected and expected and uncreate and destroy it all, or look at where you may have bought some of those points of view, what could actually change? That's what I'll say about that. I hope I'm not speaking too fast for Sergey. I know he's good. Come on. He translates Dane and whatever, but I was like, I talk fast. which is another thing that most X-Men have an ability to be fast in one area or a million. And most of them have decided they're slow, which is super cute and super fun. Most X-Men take the ability that they have and decide it's a disability across the board. So what if you could, choosing an X-Men class could actually take every single thing you've decided is a disability, or where you're wrong, or where you're stupid, or where you're slow, or all those things that you've decided about yourself, and flip them on their head? What else would be possible for you and for the planet and for the world? That's my question. So do we have any other questions? Is there anything else, Patty, that's pinging you we could talk about? Or feels a little like we've got some good stuff out there.
Yeah. If anyone else has any last things, Sergey wants you to know that he's great. Jacqueline would like to know how long I've been facilitating these classes. And Sergey says, say about future class. So I'm putting it in the chat now, Sergey.
That was next, Sergey. You're just ahead of the game. Another X-Men trait, just so you know, everybody. You think you're an X-Men if. You don't think you're an X-Men if. So yes, we are. There is going to be an X-Men class coming up at the end of the month. I'm really, really excited. It's June 29th and 30th. It's live in LA. It will also be live streamed, so you can join us from anywhere on the planet. We would love to have you live if you want to come to LA. It's going to be super fun. And it's 2 days of just, in 40 minutes, if you've gotten one or two things, like imagine what 2 days creates for you. And obviously there's going to be Russian translation, which I'm very excited about. And Patty's put the little, I guess that's how you register, in the chat. And if you have further questions, feel free to, you can reach me at Access Consciousness /Cara Wright. My email, you can email me directly, is talktocaraWright@gmail.com. And I actually have a website, which is caraawright.com. So those are a couple of the ways if you have further questions or want to reach out, see what else I have going on. We have this class coming up in LA, and there will be more in the future. So Patty and I both looked at that question. Maybe one more question.
So Miruna says, I perceive I'm functioning in many realities, and sometimes I feel it's overwhelming. I feel that I must always be in motion. What to do about it? Can you talk about X-Men and our abilities to perceive multiple reality?
Yes, I can. I'll tell you a little story because it's one of the things that I've actually heard Gary tell this story. So one of the things he said is with X-Men kids especially, oftentimes parents will have a really hard time getting them going in the morning and getting them into their routine and into their day. And Gary talks about, as an X-Men, because we don't have a sense of separation between past, present, and future. So yesterday, today, tomorrow, there is no sense of like, those are separate things. So for X-Men, it's much better if you just give them like a full picture of something. So like when you're saying you're aware of multiple realities, that's what you're talking about. You're always aware of full picture. So you can ask for the information to be given to you in that way. And the feeling and motion thing, it's like, like a lot of X-Men, we always kid, it's like X-Men classes, we need to have like bouncy balls to sit on and like rocking. And like, sometimes that's just when you have that level of information coming in, and it's all energetic. And it's just, that's one way you use your body to dissipate a lot of that energy. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's more just like, okay, cool, I'm going to move. I'm going to I'm going to shift, I'm going to change, and oftentimes that's actually something that creates a lot more ease for your body. So what if it's not wrong? Like I would say, what's right about it you're not getting? And what capacity, ability, and talent is there that you've not acknowledged? Yeah. One for, as we roll out, there you go. What talent, ability, and capacity have you not acknowledged that if you acknowledged it would not just change your reality, but the whole planet's?
Oh
And
my
would you
God.
be willing to choose it?
Albina says boom, which is like my favorite quote ever. Thank you so much. So much. These tools have been such a gift in exponentializing capacities and awarenesses, and really getting out of the wrongness of me. I've also been around for a really long time and taken all of the classes times a godzillion. And with these particular ones, it was just finally that sense of space and peace. Yeah. So my final invitation for everyone to come and play with us in Los Angeles, June 29th and 30th, in North Hollywood, California. How does it get better?
I'm so excited.
And we are live streaming. The link was up here somewhere. I can post it again. So yeah, thank you, Cara. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Yay!
Yeah.
How does it get better? Bye for now.